This is Markin Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Follow on Twitter. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Marking Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Brennan likes fisting. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. We're marking out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans.
Welcome to Markin Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. This is episode 691. That is right. We broke into the 690s and we are climbing to that 700 region. So make sure that you are checking us out at markinout.com. Listen and subscribe over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you may be listening to your podcast. Give us a 5-star rating. Buy a t-shirt over at prowrestlingtees.com/markinout. Give us a follow on Instagram at markinout11 and also on TikTok at markinout11. And make sure that you're checking us out on Twitter at markinout. You can follow myself on Twitter, Dave the Rave, at DavidPTDPT. On all social media platforms, you can follow Brandon on all social media platforms at BTTG161 and Chris at Chris Sweendog over on Twitter and CMSweeney85 on Instagram. That being said, Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing awesome as always. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. Tell me, how was your week?
I really didn't do anything at all. How about yourself?
You know, this week, it was a mighty fine week watching the playoffs with the Rangers and the Knicks. It is nice to see New York playoffs happening. Islanders eliminated. But hopefully the Knicks and the Rangers can keep it up, keep it going. And it's always a great time when New York playoffs are taking place. Very exciting. So, yeah. But did you go to Cheesecake
Cracker
Factory?
Barrel? No, I didn't. Cheesecake Factory? Of course I did.
Of course. Well, then let's get into, we had this supplemental draft taking place on SmackDown-wise. The OC, Baron Corbin, and Cedric Alexander with Ashanti went over to SmackDown, while Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, and Ivar went to Monday Night Raw. What's your take on that?
Seems not really any changes. Baron Corbin, the one I'm most disappointed about is because obviously they're pushing Braun Breaker as the single star.
Yeah. But
I wanted the Wolf Dogs. So
I could understand that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm fine with them separating the Wolf Dogs, but especially to build up Braun Breaker.
I just don't think Braun Breaker needs to be built up as a single star yet. So
I could understand that. Maybe it's going to end up being rushed and stuff. The OC to SmackDown, I think that was pretty.
They were there.
Obvious with everything that's been taking place over there.
Yeah.
But how about we move on to some Monday Night Raw?
Which kicks off, you have Patrick Mahomes randomly with Logan Paul at the start. And then the Judgment Day were part of this segment as well. And that just will put a pin in, ties into Monday Night Raw later on. But the actual show kicked off with Becky Lynch. And I feel like this promo took too long, but she said that she wants a new contender and she wants to face the best. And Liv Morgan came out and she's like, well, here I am. And Becky Lynch owes her a shot because she took Rhea Ripley out, and Becky Lynch wouldn't be champion if she didn't take Rhea Ripley out. She didn't beat her at WrestleMania. So she, by chance, got that opportunity last week and won that Battle Royal. Nia Jax showed up and said that if she's leaving Monday Night Raw, she's leaving with the title. Or she's taking one of them out, is I think what she said actually. And Liv Morgan accepted. That match gets set up for Monday Night Raw. After that, we had
No.
Stephanie McMahon come out to do the first draft picks for Monday Night Raw, where Imperium, as in Ludwig and Gunther, and not Giovanni Vinci. So now, last week I said we don't know if they're split up. Now
I
we
think
know.
I think we got our answer for sure during this one.
Jade Cargill stays on SmackDown, which I still feel like Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton, Braun Breaker, and I feel Andrade, they should not have been eligible for the draft at all because they were literally just signed to their brands.
You know, I go back and forth with that because I get that they were just signed to their brands and everything. But on the other hand, I do like that the draft is everybody that's fair game. Unless you...
It's just dumb to me.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
But Damage Control got drafted to Monday Night Raw, so I'm excited to see what they have on Raw, getting away from Bayley and that championship. And then Kevin Owens will be staying on SmackDown. The first match of Monday Night Raw saw Gunther pick up the victory over Xavier Woods. I definitely didn't think that Xavier Woods was walking out with the victory here. So
yeah, I mean, come on, no way was Woods walking out as a winner over Gunther. But it was definitely a good match. I did enjoy the both of them going at each other.
Yeah, and Gunther worked on Xavier Woods' knee throughout the match, and Woods at one point got his knees up when Gunther went for a splash, but obviously he takes damage from that on his knee. And then he went for a super kick, which I feel like, why would you do that? That would do more damage to your hurt knee, I think. But Gunther caught it anyway, locks him in a half crab, and Kofi teases throwing in the towel there. And Xavier Woods wouldn't let him do that. And then Gunther finally turns it into a somewhat of a unique STF. And Xavier Woods tapped off of that. So I thought that was a fantastic ending to that match.
I agree with you. I really like the way that this match ended. And I like the aspect with that submission hold. But yeah. Next up, you had Logan Paul and ISHO Speed.
Yeah. They were picking up the draft picks.
Yeah, doing the draft picks and everything. They're really pushing, well, Logan Paul, but this guy, ISHO Speed. I just know him as a YouTuber, but...
I don't know him as a YouTuber.
Why? What is you?
I just know... No, I assume he does YouTube. I don't know what he does. I know him because I saw him set his room on fire one time.
Oh, like, what was that? Like Pikachu?
Something
with the
like
firecracker?
That. Yeah, it was some sort of cake or something.
So stupid.
But
Kids.
Monday Night Raw picks CM Punk. I feel like, when did CM Punk show up to be... Didn't he was also somebody I feel like should have been...
Not being able to be drafted. He showed up back in November.
Yeah, so Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, as well as BFAB, I feel like this might have been the first time they were referred to as the Pride. They're staying on SmackDown. Braun Strowman gets picked for Monday Night Raw. Braun Strowman was somebody who we figured if there's going to be a Wyatt family stable, he would be part of it. Now, to me, it doesn't look like Braun Strowman would be part of that.
Now, something I didn't like about that was earlier in the day, he tweeted out or put out something on Instagram of him getting a haircut, kind of like spoiling that he was going to be there.
Oh, I didn't know that. And then, of course, Tiffany Stratton is staying on SmackDown. And then Logan Paul, after the draft picks, went to the ring. And he spoke about Jey Uso running his mouth. And he said Damian Priest is going to beat Jey Uso at Backlash. And Jay's incapable of being champion on his own. And that led to Jey Uso showing up. And then JD McDonough and Finn Balor showed up. And Jay went after the Judgment Day, but he obviously gets got. And then Mr. Kansas City Chiefs himself, Patrick Mahomes, gives Logan Paul... By the way, Patrick Mahomes and Logan Paul's relationship is that he is a prime athlete, I believe.
Yes, I believe you are correct with that.
So, Mr. Prime Athlete himself, Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl champion, in Kansas City gives his Super Bowl rings to Logan Paul to knock Jey Uso out with, and Jey ends up ducking, punches JD McDonough, and I just thought that part was funny where Finn Balor and Logan Paul are standing over JD McDonough to assess the damage, and Jey Uso joins in to like laugh at it. But ultimately, Braun Strowman shows up and makes the save for Jey Uso. And he turns his attention to Patrick Mahomes and the other two Chiefs that were there. Jey backs him off. The internet's like, holy crap, are we about to see Braun Strowman versus Patrick Mahomes at some point? You never know at this, in this iteration of WWE, I guess.
I don't know. That's a hard sell for me.
Yeah, you never know. But they that segment ends. We see Sami Zayn pick up the victory over Bronson Reed via disqualification, which was a title match. So obviously the champion retains. And I thought the match was fine, but Chad Gable showed up and he attacked Sami Zayn. And Sami, earlier in the night, had hit Chad Gable with a haluva kick backstage, obviously repaying him for that German suplex in front of his wife. But I like this segment. I popped big time for Bronson Reed squashing Sami Zayn after Chad Gable did the damage.
Yeah,
and then
I'm a
Chad
big fan of
Gable
this.
Gable went and celebrated, obviously, and Bronson Reed wasn't having it. Boom, put him down too.
Mm-hmm.
Surely this should have been added to Backlash. I don't think it was. I think it seems like Backlash is only going to be staying the 5 matches.
I don't know. I feel like they're going to add this at the last moment. I mean, we still have SmackDown. I can't even say, but I could see this being added at some point, though.
I don't know.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard not to see this added to as a match for Backlash. I mean, it's happening this weekend.
Yeah.
But next up, you had Bradshaw and Ron Simmons coming out to do the next draft picks. APA back together.
I think one of the most surprising picks here, given what we witnessed on SmackDown, the LWO got drafted to Monday Night Raw, but that included Carlito. So you have Imperium split up, but Carlito also follows the LWO while being a member of LWO, even though they released that footage, that CM Punk and Jungle Jack Perry footage of Carlito attacking Dragon Lee backstage.
Yeah, I didn't understand why Carlito was drafted with them.
And, of course, Legado del Fantasma stays on SmackDown. Drew McIntyre stays on Monday Night Raw. And Shinsuke Nakamura goes from Monday Night Raw to SmackDown. So we'll see some new matches pop up with Shinsuke. After that,
I think that's important for Shinsuke, too.
Yeah. Although, I mean, right now he's not been pushed as like a main part of a storyline.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, Drew McIntyre showed up and he was pissed off that he was drafted in round 3. And which rightfully so. I feel like he was literally just the world champion. I know maybe your stock sort of falls when you're not.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just champion. He still put in that work at WrestleMania.
I kind of feel like this is also goes along with the storyline, though, of him.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You know,
in this promo, he spoke about how at WrestleMania, CM Punk injured him, his elbow, I think it was, and he still shows up to work, unlike CM Punk. And then CM Punk's music hit, and he was up in the, I guess, a suite. And Drew McIntyre goes off on him. He takes off looking for CM Punk, goes to go up to that suite. We put a pin in that. And they cut to Braun Breaker being interviewed. He's there to take over Monday Night Raw. Which, by the way, Monday Night Raw has Braun, and Braun Breaker. Bronson Reed, I mean. I missed that.
Oh, I forgot about... Yeah. That's
Braun, and Bronson.
It sounds like a law firm.
Yeah, but Braun Breaker, I'm here to take over Monday Night Raw. Sheamus interrupted and said he's a big fan of Braun Breaker and that he reminds him of himself. And during that segment, we see Drew McIntyre, I don't want to say walk, but briskly walks by. And then later on, we see McIntyre. He shows up to that suite where CM Punk was. And all that was there was a signed 8x10 from CM Punk.
That was really nice of him to leave that for him.
And then I thought he was going to like throw it out into the crowd. I thought that would have been cool. But McIntyre instead took it and tucked it in and left with it. We saw there's a extra fan footage or from WWE that posted it of that fan who had the CM Poop sign.
Mm-hmm.
And CM Punk got to meet her and he was super nice to the kids. Signed the sign, and then McIntyre also met the kids too, so I thought that was pretty cool for them because they were wearing McIntyre merch.
No, I didn't see that McIntyre got to meet them too. I just saw the CM Punk going to meet them. That's cool.
Yeah, so CM Punk ends up coming out to the ring and said he was glad that he hurt Drew McIntyre's elbow because Drew prayed for his injury. And then Punk brought up being drafted before Drew McIntyre. Like you said, it probably plays into the story. It definitely plays in. And CM Punk said he's the best in the world. Of course he'll be drafted before McIntyre. And he said that when he's cleared, he's going to make Drew's life a living hell. So I like that we started up where CM Punk was in the suite and McIntyre was out there on the ramp. And then we switched everything around. And CM Punk's playing mind games with Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, and he sits with his legs crossed in the center of the ring, But I thought that this was a nice segment with the Drew McIntyre and CM Punk going back and forth. I was a big fan of this.
Yeah.
And the crowd was so hot during this entire thing, I feel, right?
Yeah. After that, Candice LeRae picked up the victory over Maxine. We did see Chad Gable run Maxine down as she was celebrating earlier on. She was celebrating that she eliminated The Way last week. And he also yelled at Akira Tozawa and Otis. And this match starts. Obviously, Maxine got yelled at by Chad Gable. She starts by handing it to Candice. And she even at one point, she locks in that ankle lock, and she had this match. I would say she had this match won.
Yeah.
Indy Hartwell attacked Ivy Nile, which distracted Maxine, and Candice was able to take over from that moment and get that victory.
I totally agree with you. I really like this aggressive side of Maxine that Chad Gable has been, I guess, starting to install within them. So Maxine, when she locked in that submission hold and refused to let go, it was a nice change of pace to see for Maxine. It's going to be interesting to see how the other two end up taking form to Chad Gable's new direction. It would be interesting if also everybody ended up going just heel to remain aligned with him, or if they end up turning on someone like Tozawa.
Well, I might as well bring this up. Later on in the night, we saw R-Truth negotiating a match, a championship match with Chad Gable. And Miz shows up. He's like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, fine, whatever, we'll do the match. Awesome Truth pick up the victory over Alpha Academy and retain the titles. This was, I don't want to say it was a straight up squash match, but there was not much to it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they will have that fire lit under them, and we'll see Otis be that like mean guy. We'll see Tozawa, the power of Tozawa again.
That's true too. I forgot about the power of Tozawa.
But rewinding the program, we saw Alundra Blaze and Teddy Long come out to make draft picks. And we see the Judgment Day stay on Monday Night Raw, which I feel like that's surprising that they went so late in the draft. They even had a segment with Rey Mysterio and Dominic, like making light of the fact that the Judgment Day had not been drafted yet. And the LWO went right before that or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of weird that they go down because they're in a group with the world champion. Mm-hmm. Rhea Ripley was just women's champion. would still consider them, even if they're not winning, a dominant group.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree as well that they're definitely a dominant group. Yeah, and I was surprised at how long it took for them to get drafted, especially after the LWO.
Yeah, but Naomi stays on SmackDown. From NXT, we have Ilya Dragunov coming to Monday Night Raw. We knew it was more than likely that he'll show up in the draft, and he shows up in the draft. And then Piper Niven and Chelsea Green get drafted to SmackDown, and Adam Pearce celebrated that Chelsea Green got drafted to SmackDown, and I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, that was a good moment, and I hope that we still continue to see some stuff maybe back and forth. With maybe her trying to get a hold of his manager or something, even though she's not even on his brand.
Chelsea's week was not over, so...
Yes, that's true. But next up you had Liv Morgan pick up the victory over Nia Jax. Big victory for Liv Morgan.
Tiffany Stratton sat in the crowd to watch this.
Yes.
I don't know if this was... I don't know if it was a big victory for her. I thought it was a decent match, but I liked Liv Morgan pulling Nia Jax into the turnbuckle when she went for the Annihilator. But it was really Naomi. She shows up and brawled with Tiffany Stratton. And then Nia Jax took Naomi out, and Liv Morgan hit Nia with the Codebreaker, and then she hit the Oblivion. So I don't really feel like that's as big of a win as it could have been, I guess.
Okay.
And then Becky Lynch gave Liv Morgan the title shot, and we see Damage Control show up to say hello to Becky Lynch. So that's, in my opinion, them putting the champion on notice.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think that is definitely putting the champion on notice.
After that,
yeah,
we had the Dudley Boys come out to announce draft picks. New Day staying on Monday Night Raw. Pretty Deadly staying on SmackDown. From NXT, we have the former NXT Women's Champion Lyra Valkyria going to Monday Night Raw, and I'm super pumped about that. I really wish she went to SmackDown so we could have seen, or potentially have seen, Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley. But we'll see more matches, I'm sure, on Monday Night Raw. And Monday Night Raw's got a whole bunch of Irish talent now. You got Finn Balor, you got JD McDonough, Becky Lynch, the champion, Lyra Valkyria. Not sure if I'm missing anyone.
That's very true.
And then The Way go to SmackDown. They're that didn't happen yet. So after that, we already spoke about the tag team match. We'll skip right to Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis doing more draft picks. The Final Testament got drafted to Monday Night Raw, which all of this is sort of confusing because we do still have those talents, even if they were drafted, showing up on NXT. And for me at least, I very much so thought that NXT was going to have picks this year.
Yeah, I feel like
they made such a big deal of it, and that didn't happen.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. I feel like they could. I mean, if you're going to have SmackDown, you're going to have Raw having the announcements on there, but you're going to include NXT in the ability to be drafted. I feel like you're definitely missing the boat without having drafts taking place on NXT as well.
But I'm fine with Raw and SmackDown roster members showing up on SmackDown on NXT still, regardless of draft status, because you're not being drafted to NXT. So I don't care if you show up in NXT. If you're drafted from Raw to SmackDown and you show back up on Monday Night Raw, then that's the problem.
Yeah,
but like I was about to say, DIY got drafted to SmackDown. They're obviously joining Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, so I don't know if they're going to group back up at some point, but they're all on the same brand. After that, Bronson Reed was announced. He's staying on Monday Night Raw, and then Blair Davenport got drafted from NXT to SmackDown, and I think that was probably maybe the most surprising draft pick, or unexpected, not surprising. So,
yeah, I didn't expect that to take place.
And then the main event saw Jey Uso, Andrade, and Ricochet pick up the victory over the Judgment Day. And now I questioned literally everything. I was doing a survey this week, by the way, unrelated to WWE, but it happened to be about Monday Night Raw. And they asked me, it was about brand integration and what brand integration I noticed during the program.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions was about Apple. And I'm like, wait a minute, was that story that Pat McAfee said, was it not true? When they came back from commercial, I believe at one point, after the Judgment Day was going like wild in that segment, Pat McAfee told a story, which I thought was really funny, about how Michael Cole's Apple Watch thought he had fallen over and was offering to call 911. Because that's what happens when your Apple Watch recognizes a fall. And,
yeah, I think that's fascinating too that does that.
But now I don't know if that actually happened. Now I just think it might have been brand integration. I don't know. But regardless, I thought that was a funny story. Dominic Mysterio distracted the referee. And JD McDonough threw Jey Uso off the top rope when Damian Priest went for that choke slam. And Damian Priest was like, bro, what the hell? I had that. And that pretty much led to the end of the match where Jey Uso had a comeback and got the win.
It was a fun, entertaining match. I thought it was really a solid, I think, way to end Monday Night Raw.
Something I didn't talk about earlier when they were backstage with Judgment Day. And JD McDonough was icing his face, and he took the ice off his face after the shot from the Super Bowl rings. I was not expecting his face to look like that, and I don't know if it was makeup, because there was another photo that was posted where it looks like they were actually like pop blood vessels from 3 Super Bowl rings.
I don't know. I feel like that's definitely a makeup job on that.
Maybe they added to it to make it that red, but that other picture looks like it was a legit picture with blood vessels.
I don't know. I feel like it was pure makeup on that one.
But did you see the second picture? Because it wasn't as bruised as that, but it has those outlines of the Super Bowl rings.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think that it might have caused damage, just not as much damage. Maybe they did make up for Raw, and then that second picture might have been real.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. But we had the supplemental draft take place, which I thought was going to be taking place on Raw Talk. Did not happen. I sat through Raw Talk, and that didn't happen on that. So they end up announcing it randomly online. Dijak is the first name announced. He goes to Monday Night Raw. The Creeds and Ivy Nile stay on Monday Night Raw. Dijak, I don't want to just gloss over, by the way. I think that's awesome that he's going to be on Raw, and I hope for big things with him.
I agree.
British Strong Style get traded to Monday Night Raw from SmackDown. Natalya is staying on Monday Night Raw. Kaden Carter and Katana Chance are staying on Monday Night Raw. Odyssey Jones, I think he had one match after, maybe not even a match after the last draft.
I don't even think a match.
He was on Raw last time and got drafted to Raw this time. So maybe we'll see him, maybe we won't.
Yeah, I was really surprised at Odyssey Jones being included in this even.
Yeah, when his picture was shown in that ultimate draft pool picture, I was shocked. I did not think we would see that at all.
Yeah, I just didn't even, I don't know, even though he was in there, I was just like, I don't think that they're actually going to draft this guy.
And then over to SmackDown, we found out Giovanni Vinci, we found out Apollo Crews, and we found out Tegan Knox. So Tegan and Natalya are no longer a tag team. They had been teasing a split, but now we just we get rid of them.
Now it's just going to be like this.
It's a 4 split. You could have had a good split, but for some reason they didn't do it. I think they didn't want to have either one of them heel, so whatever. Mm-hmm. But moving over to NXT, it opens with Trick Williams. Huge ovation for him. And he thanked Ilya Dragunov and was interrupted by Lash Legend, who congratulated him. But she also had an envelope with her, and she said she has the truth with her. We don't know what it is. I don't know if Trick knows what it is. There was some flirting in this segment. And that was pretty much the end, where she didn't give the envelope.
Yeah, it's definitely makes you wonder, like, what's in there and everything.
People chanted Jerry. People were chanting, "You are the father," I think.
I mean,
so I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
oh, also,
definitely gives like Maury vibes.
The perhaps worst part of this segment is that Lash Legend pronounced Reese's wrong. And I hate when people pronounce Reese's wrong.
I mean, since you brought it up, I hated during the draft with Ron Simmons and who else?
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Yeah, Ron Simmons.
Maybe Teddy Long might have done it, too. Dominique Mysterio.
Yeah. Teddy Long with Mysterio, and then Ron Simmons with the LWO. No, with Phantasmo, whatever it is.
Oh, Legato.
Legato. That was...
But
yeah.
Reese's bothers me more because it's somebody's name. Obviously, those are names too, but it's not Reese's. It'll never be Reese's. The man's name was H.B. Reese. It's Reese. It's not Reese's.
Mm-hmm.
So that bothers me. But I thought this was a funny segment. Where it's going to lead to, I couldn't even guess. Could not even guess what was in the envelope.
Maybe it's her recipe for mandel bread or something. I don't know.
I looked up recipes for mandel bread the other day.
Really?
They were all wildly different. Yeah, it was very bizarre.
Huh.
But I have not had mandel bread in quite some time. But after that, we saw Ariana Grace and Gigi Dolan, where they were going through table lessons, and it led to them hyping up the show through each thing that was brought up. So I thought that was a clever integration of their storyline to hype up every match for Spring Breakin'. And the first match of Spring Breakin' saw Obafemi pick up the victory over Ivar to retain that championship. On Trick Williams' way backstage, we saw him stare down Obafemi. Obafemi didn't look at Trick Williams, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think so. I don't remember.
Maybe we'll see a match between the two of them. Maybe we won't.
I would be open to it, you know. I think Obafemi needs some solid competition down there, so why not?
And I thought this was good. I thought this was a good big man match between Ivar and Obafemi. Ivar did that running crossbody and put him through the barricade, which I thought was funny. Somebody tweeted out saying, I don't remember the actual wording of the tweet, but it was like not Ivar and Obafemi being in Tatum Paxley's house. So I thought that was funny because that's really where we always see Tatum Paxley pop up from.
Mm-hmm.
The torture rack drop from Obafemi I thought was great. And then Obafemi got hit with that moonsault, got his foot on the rope to break up the pin. He eventually picks up that victory, and Wesley returned to stare him down. Wesley had been injured for, I don't know if it was like 6 months or so. Slated to be a year, the least amount of time I think they said was maybe going to be a year. That was a very weird way of saying that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about him the other week, too. I'm like, he's been out for a very long time. So it's nice to see him back.
Yeah, and then they had a segment where Josh Briggs, Ivar, and Wesley were talking, and Josh Briggs was annoyed because he called next. And Wesley was like, well, I don't need the title shot. I'll beat you for it. So that match gets set up. And then Ivar said he's not done with that championship either. After that, we saw Thea Hale pick up the victory over JC Jane. And before this, Thea Hale asked Fallon to have her back. And Fallon Henley said no at first. And Thea Hale, I don't want to say forced Fallon Henley to do it, but she kind of forced Fallon Henley to do it. Fallon was feeling down about not being drafted. I was shocked that Fallon Henley was not drafted.
Yeah, I agree with you. With everything that she's been taking place, especially with her interview skills and her in-ring ability, I was surprised.
And you could barely hear that segment. The fans were still going nuts for Wes Lee. So I thought that was pretty cool. But the match itself, I thought, had some good back and forth action. Jasmine Nix got involved. And Fallon Henley ended up pushing Thea Hale out of the way. And she was the one that ate the move from Jasmine Nix. And then Thea Hale got back in the ring. She locked JC Jane in that Kimura and picked up the victory, only to have Fallon Henley attack Thea Hale afterwards. Which as soon as she was the one that got taken down, I saw that coming from a mile away.
Yeah, it was pretty... The signs were on the wall.
And everyone's like,
take place.
She turned heel. Fallon Henley's a heel now. It's like, no, what do you mean? She said no. Thea Hale pretty much forced her to after she was being very nice about it. No, thank you. She was down on herself about not being drafted. Now she's pissed off.
Yeah,
is that necessarily
angry.
A heel turn? To me, it's like Drew McIntyre.
I mean, on the other side, Drew McIntyre was portrayed as a heel, though.
That's only because he was
heel.
Everything Drew McIntyre was saying was not, to me. Obviously, yes, he was being depicted as a heel. What he was saying was correct, not heel.
Yeah, I could understand that. I could understand that.
After that, we saw the OC pick up the victory over Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe. This was their debut on TV, and they had aired a video package for them last week. They aired one before this match. They're two big guys. I think they move pretty fast. Tyson at one point even did a kip up, which was cool to see. And I think despite their loss, they still looked good.
Yeah, it was a nice debut for the both of them. And especially taking on the OC, I feel like it was obvious that the OC was going to pick up the win during this.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Igwe and DuPont, they did solid, you know?
Like, is it weird for them to lose their debut? Maybe. But I'm willing to see what's next, what the next part of the story looks like for them. And a lot of people were pissed off that they lost. Many people lost on their debut, though. So
can you imagine how many people would be pissed off if the OC lost to them, though?
I don't know.
Like, I feel like
obviously I could see the flip side. Obviously,
right?
People wouldn't be happy with that.
Yeah. People would go crazy that the OC, they're being mistreated. They lost to these two people that just come in and they should have never left, yada, yada.
And it's the OC. Like, I think that's a big match for anybody to have.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I'm fine with the outcome of this, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of them. After that, we saw Ava bring up the Women's North American Championship and said that it's going to be taking place in a ladder match at Battleground. Women are going to compete in the Combine next week, and then the 12 most impressive women will have 6 qualifying matches, and the winners go on to that match. So it's going to be a 6-woman ladder match. We saw Jada Parker interrupt this to hype herself up. Sol Ruka showed up to do the same exact thing. Ariana Grace did that as well. Who else? And then, Mia Yim showed up. That was a big surprise.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool, and it led to a brawl. Other women from the locker room spilled out into this and joined into that brawl. All the while, Ariana Grace is standing in the middle of the ring, like, yelling for everyone to stop, which I thought was funny. I honestly, who should be the first North American champion? For me, it's Fallon Henley, and I don't know if that's going to happen.
With her not being called up, I feel like there's a good chance that it could end up being her, though.
I really hope so.
I feel like I can't see who else that position would go to.
Yeah. But we'll see next week how the combine goes. That's always interesting to see because there are like really, really good athletes in WWE.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the combine. It brings it more to that entire NFL draft kind of a deal, vibe that they have going on at times.
I think we've seen the combine before, but I don't remember in what scenario it was used.
I don't remember if it was on TV or on YouTube where they were showing stuff.
I don't know if it ever led to a storyline thing, but I know we've seen like footage of the combine.
Yeah, like because I mean that's how a lot of people got to find out about Bianca Belair was through the combine, I believe.
After that, we saw Ridge Holland pick up the victory over Shawn Spears, which everyone's like, LOL, Shawn Spears is a jobber. I don't think so. But I could have done without this match. No offense. Ridge Holland, I think Ridge needed this victory, so it's like, I'm not...
You're just hating on Shawn Spears.
I like Shawn Spears. I hate his entrance. His entrance wasn't the same this week. It wasn't the same, like, goofy, let me dance in a chair thing. So, but there was like so much action on this episode of NXT that I didn't need that match. So, obviously, though, they needed to further that storyline with Ridge Holland.
Yeah, I think it's important to do that.
Backstage, Roxanne Perez was pissed off that she wasn't drafted, and she blamed Ava, which, when they first said everything, they said every champion is safe except for the women's championships, the tag team championships. And then I could swear they said the NXT champions are also not safe. But here, Ava told Roxanne Perez that it's not her fault. It was because the champions are safe. They cannot be drafted. And I'm glad Roxanne Perez wasn't drafted as champion because I want her to be champion. I'm happy about that. And I think Ava wanted to talk to Roxanne about something, and Roxanne ends up going away from that. Ava said something like, as in, here's your next opponent.
Yeah, I feel like they split away or something like that.
Yeah, Roxanne left.
Yeah.
After that, we saw the D'Angelos driving. Basically, Tony's coming for the Heritage Cup. Sweet and simple.
Yeah. Cut right to the point. Next up, you had Axiom and Nathan Frazier pick up the victory over authors of Pain, AOP, to retain the tag team championship down there. Impressive victory.
The Street Profits were in the house. They hyped up Axiom and Nathan Frazier.
Yeah.
And the champions, before the match started, they went right out of the gate to AOP. And AOP takes over. Scarlett and Karrion Kross caused some distractions, and the referee kicked them from ringside. And when that was happening, I thought for sure, given that backstage segment, the Street Profits were going to get involved. But it was actually British Strong Style. New Catch Republic, whatever their name is, I'm not going to remember. So I'll say British Strong Style still. And they attacked AOP, which led to the champions retaining. And then we got a mini NXT UK reunion with the four of them.
Next up, you had Lola Vice pick up the victory over Natalya in NXT Underground. This matchup, you had everybody as lumberjacks surrounding the ring.
Not lumberjacks.
What do you call them?
I don't know. They were just standing there, fans.
I guess.
They were PC guys.
It's a lumberjack match to me. Without ropes.
Because they weren't helping the people. They weren't beating out the opponents.
Well, I mean,
they weren't acting
debatable.
as lumberjacks. No, not debatable.
Shayna Baszler.
No, Shayna Baszler was not part of that. Shayna Baszler and Petrovich were in their corners.
True.
And I thought this match was great. I enjoyed the heck out of this. I did think, though, if you rolled out of the ring, you'd have to get, break the action and get back in, but that wasn't the case. Maybe I just don't remember fully the NXT Underground rules.
Mm-hmm.
But Shayna Baszler ends up getting too close to the action, perhaps, and Carmen Petrovich jumps on her. Shayna Baszler gets in the ring. Natty takes her out. She turns into a kick from Lola Vice, and Natty caught it and locked her into the sharpshooter. And Shayna Baszler then goes on the other side, locks Carmen Petrovich in the Kirifuda clutch. Natalya, instead of staying on that sharpshooter, she breaks it and goes after Shayna Baszler.
Now, what's your take of that? Because I got a little bit frustrated that she broke the hold for that.
It cost her the match.
That's the thing. I really didn't like that. I was just like, ah.
She is a veteran. You could say, should know better, but she's also somebody who's compassionate.
Yeah,
so
that's true. I feel like we were getting to see a side of Natalya that we haven't seen in a long time, too, in there.
Yeah, and she got back in. Lola Vice took her down and hit that barrage of elbows, and the ref called it.
Yeah.
Very similar to a UFC finish, perhaps.
Some would say that.
I enjoyed this match fully. I would like to see more of it. I don't know if we'll see Natty back in NXT, but I'm here for it.
Yeah,
and then as NXT thing is ending, we see Ava again with Roxanne, and she told her who her opponent's going to be for next week, and it's Chelsea Green. And I really thought we were going to see Meiko Satomura show up. I thought that when that segment took place earlier in the night, my mind went right to Meiko Satomura.
I was totally fine with it being Chelsea Green, though.
Oh, I'm 100% fine with it being Chelsea Green. I think that's great, but I think Roxanne Perez has to run through Chelsea next week. Almost no offense.
I guess. The thing, and I feel like if that happens with Chelsea Green is still safe. Like, I feel like her character, like, it doesn't, like you just said, she could run right through her. It doesn't have to be a long match. It doesn't have to be really a match. It could be just a hit, pin, done, and Chelsea Green could just sell it. I feel like Chelsea Green, as long as she has a chance to sell, that she is going to shine.
Yeah. And off air on Twitter, they put out an exclusive video of Chelsea being interviewed, and Robert Stone showed up. And they're like, let's talk. Chelsea Green was part of the Robert Stone brand. Everybody part of the Robert Stone brand, by the way, had been fired at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Including Chelsea. So we'll see. I don't think Chelsea Green is winning. I don't think Matt Cardona is becoming one half the women's champion or something.
I mean, will we see Robert Stone, though, head on over with her to the, where was she, Monday Night Raw?
SmackDown now.
SmackDown?
Yeah.
Maybe Stone will join her on SmackDown now.
It's possible. I know the news site's reporting saying he's a producer now, I think. Not 100% sure on that.
Huh. That would make sense, though.
100%, yeah.
Would make sense.
That's NXT. Moving over to SmackDown. It kicked off with Bayley, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi picking up the victory over Damage Control and Tiffany Stratton. I always like hearing those Hey Bayley chants from the crowd, the international crowd. They don't really do that in the United States. And then more than that, I just thought it was great to hear how into the match the crowd was. I thought that was phenomenal. And in the match itself, we saw Bayley tag herself in when Bianca Belair was in the ring. Kind of heelish, but also... And it turned the match around for the faces at that time. But it just shows that Bianca Belair still isn't over everything that happened with her in Damage Control. So I like that they added that aspect there. I also like that Bayley ended up tagging Jade Cargill instead when she desperately needed a tag. And then we saw Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair do some moves together. They did a cool double team move, an assisted move, I should say, to Dakota Kai. And this really turned into like move after move after move that I don't like. That just like showcases everybody. But it ended with Bianca Belair hitting that KOD to pick up the victory. After that, Nick Aldis and Carmelo Hayes had a backstage segment. And Carmelo Hayes was talking about how he almost had Cody last week. And then he entered himself into the King of the Ring tournament. Bobby Lashley walked in and said that if basically offered advice and help and said, just let him know. And then Bobby Lashley pointed out that Carmelo Hayes lost to Cody. And Carmelo Hayes threw it back in his face. And Lashley warned him about disrespecting people. So I'm sure next week's SmackDown will probably see Bobby Lashley versus Carmelo Hayes. We saw Authors of Pain pick up the victory over British Strong Style. I thought it was cool that they showed the footage from NXT on this week's show to show what Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne did to AOP. And they had good offense during the match, but there was just no way they were beating AOP. They had one hell of a match here, but there was no way. And Scarlett Bordeaux ends up getting involved, which allowed for Karrion Kross to get involved, and that led to the end of the match. After that, we saw the RKO show, which I thought was cool to hear the crowd singing along to Randy Orton's theme song. And Paul Heyman was the guest for this. And prior to being on the show, he went to Nick Aldis and he tried to get Nick Aldis to call off the match for Backlash between the Bloodline and RKO. And Nick Aldis said no and work it out with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. So Paul Heyman came out. Also, before that, Paul Heyman informed Nick Aldis that it wasn't Roman Reigns who took himself out of the draft pool after Nick Aldis was like, oh, what is this? Just another demand from Roman Reigns or whatever he said, call from Roman Reigns. And Paul said that it wasn't Roman who took himself out. It was Paul who took Roman out, which I think is a very interesting move. But Paul Heyman was the guest on the show. And Roman Reigns, by the way, also super over in France. They did a kickoff show earlier in the day. And the fans chanted, thank you, Roman, when Cody Rhodes was out there. But as far as the segment, the Bloodline showed up and they attacked Randy Orton. They attacked Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens ends up jumping off the top rope outside the ring onto the Bloodline, and that ends that segment. I'll put a pin in that, though. We saw LA Knight pick up the victory over Angel Garza. Huge ovation for LA Knight. I thought the match was decent. Humberto Carrillo ended up on the apron, and LA Knight knocked him off, and I would have preferred for there not to be like back-to-back interference spots in matches, but that didn't lead to the end, and LA Knight was still able to hit that BFT and pick up the victory. And then he spoke afterwards. Crowd is absolutely eating him up, and he enters the King of the Ring. Santos Escobar cut him off, and I think also entered the King of the Ring. So I'm sure they'll face off in a round in the King of the Ring tournament, with LA Knight probably going over. After that, Carlito was interviewed, and he spoke about being away from WWE for many years, and he just wanted a WrestleMania moment. So when that match at WrestleMania was set up, he figured it was going to be him teaming with Rey Mysterio, and instead it was Dragon Lee who Rey chose. And he said the whole plan would have worked, which when he said that, it reminded me of Scooby-Doo. And Dragon Lee attacked him before he could have blamed anybody, I guess. So I don't think he was going to say those meddling kids. But it led to Dragon Lee attacking Carlito. That'll probably happen on Monday Night Raw since they're both part of the Raw roster now. After that, we saw A-Town Down Under in the main event pick up the victory over the Street Profits to retain the tag team championships. Earlier in the night, A-Town Down Under had a promo, and I thought it was funny because Grayson Waller was talking about something smelling, and I thought for sure, I mean, you hear those rumors of Paris smelling. They weren't in Paris, but I thought they were going to be like heels about it and say that it was France that smelled. And Austin Theory was like, oh, yeah, that's wine. And then Grayson Waller was like, no. And he goes, oh, yeah, it's the cheese. So Waller seems like the heel in that segment. Austin Theory is like putting over France. But Grayson Waller ends up saying that it was the smoke that the Street Profits want. And we go to the match. Grayson Waller attacks Montez Ford before the bell. And it looked like he was going to be the one to start, but it was actually Austin Theory who started, which I think was a super solid tag team move for A-Town Down Under. And their upper hand from that didn't last long, but I liked this match. I liked when Austin Theory went for that rolling move and Dawkins pounced him midair. I thought that was cool. And later on, when the referee was distracted with Montez Ford, Grayson Waller was able to hit Angelo Dawkins with a flatliner while he had a pin on Austin Theory, and Austin Theory was able to get the victory off of that. So I enjoyed that. And then it closes with AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes with a face-to-face, obviously just to further push their match at Backlash. But I think the main pop thing here was Cody dropping a too sweet and AJ Styles dropping a too sweet, basically. Earlier in the day, Cody Rhodes attempted to too sweet AJ Styles at that kickoff event, and AJ Styles left and people booed him. And then here, Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles teased it. And instead of actually connecting, AJ Styles slapped Cody Rhodes. So I like that aspect. It shows, like, for some reason, the Bullet Club seems to be like over huge in France. So I just like that they almost gave them that pop, and then AJ Styles slaps Cody Rhodes in the face and takes it away from them. So I like that. And then the camera quickly cuts to backstage where the Bloodline and Randy Orton and Kevin Owens were brawling. So that just further pushes their match at Backlash. That is SmackDown. Going to move over to Backlash, taking place at the LDLC Arena in Lyon, France. And right now, like we said earlier, there's only 5 matches announced, which could change, but I don't know if it will.
I mean, it could change, but let's run through them, Let's start with why not? The World Heavyweight Championship. Let's go there. Damian Priest defending against Jey Uso. I'm going to say that Damian Priest. Yeah, Damian Priest goes over on this one.
I would have started with RKO versus the Bloodline.
Yeah, let's do that one now.
Tama Tonga's first televised match. I know he had one the other night against Randy Orton and LA Knight. So I think that's pretty cool. But I have to say it's probably RKO.
Wow. I'm going to go with the Bloodline picking up the victory in this one.
Solo Sikoa has lost literally every single match since he beat John Cena.
The John Cena curse.
Tama Tonga being added to this should 100% elevate him and make him a winner again.
Yeah.
But maybe, or, I don't know, because maybe we will see the Bloodline win and it'll be Jacob Fatu helping them or something.
Exactly. We could see somebody else from the Bloodline interfere in this as well.
Yeah, I'm switching my answer. I'm saying the Bloodline.
Not too. I don't think it's too often you actually switch your answer on that.
I didn't for whatever reason I didn't factor in a potential Jacob Fatu sighting.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for Jacob Fatu. I don't know much about his matches and stuff, but I've seen clips of him, and he's very impressive.
In a perfect world, Lance Anawahi's there as well, but I don't know if that's happening.
Hey, never say never.
After that, we're going to do the Women's Tag Team Championships. The Kabuki Warriors defending the titles against the pretty new team of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill, by the way, kind of glossed over it before, which I feel like we should not have. She was drafted on that Monday Night Raw in the first round.
Yeah.
Which is big for her as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I'm going to go with, I think that we may have new tag team champions. I'm going with Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill.
I am going with them as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. And they've been building them up a lot. But let's go over to the Women's Championship. Yeah, Bayley defending against Naomi and Tiffany Stratton.
Bayley.
I'm going to go with Tiffany Stratton.
Bayley.
Yeah, I'm just joking. Bayley.
I mean, I think that's a plausible pick, but
you know, you can make a case, but after WrestleMania and stuff, I feel like we're going to see the Bayley run go at least through SummerSlam.
I hope so.
But main event,
especially, not to cut you off there, especially because we literally just got the new brands, which go into effect after Backlash. So I think that would suck for Bayley to lose the title before that even happens.
That's true.
So
yeah. Main event of the evening, undisputed WWE Championship on the line. Cody Rhodes defending against AJ Styles. I think that this match is going to be really awesome. And I'm going to say Cody Rhodes wins.
I'm saying Cody Rhodes as well. Do we see any other Bullet Club members involved here?
I'm going to say no. I
don't think so either.
I don't think that... Yeah, I don't think
it wouldn't make sense at all, but...
Yeah, I don't think anything. I did like the aspect of AJ Styles on, I believe it was last week's SmackDown, bringing up his history with Dusty Rhodes, and how like it's interesting how AJ Styles actually had a hardcore match with, I think it was a hardcore match against Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah,
like that. I feel like that TNA era is underrated right now. Like, I feel like people forget how good that TNA era actually really was. But
I mean, yeah, there were bits and pieces of it.
Yes, there were bits and pieces of it, but like where AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels.
Yeah, no, there was. I should say more than bits and pieces. I don't want to take anything away from that era of TNA.
Of course, what popped into my mind too was that angle where AJ Styles and that woman who claimed that she had his baby.
Yeah, well,
yeah, we had a lot of fun during that TNA era, but yeah.
But that's our predictions for Backlash. Going to take a quick little break right now, and I'll be right back here on Markin Out.
Hey, it's Cassidy Pope, and you're listening to Markin Out.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Markin Out episode 691. AEW again, all out of whack. Scheduling wise, I think it was basketball again. We have Collision, Rampage, Dynamite, Rampage. So back to Collision from last week. We had the Bullet Club Gold pick up the victory over Top Flight and Action Andretti to retain the championships. I thought this was a good opening match. I liked when the Guns hopped the barricade to cheer for Jay White like they would have had this been the COVID era. I thought that was like a funny throwback to do. And I think they're a good, like a comedy style tag team. I don't think at this point they fit with Jay White, but I really wish that Bullet Club Gold carried one of like a brand new trios championship instead of carrying all 6. Jay White had 7 total on Dynamite this week. I thought that was weird. After that, though, Phoenix picked up the victory over Black Taurus. Phoenix has been out for 6 months, so it sucks that they didn't do more to make hype this return up. I feel like that's something you should have done. He was previously international champion, which I almost have no memory of. And I was happy to see Black Taurus get it announced for this. I'm going to have a very difficult time calling him the Beast Mortos. But I thought that Fenix would win this match, given that it's his big return. This match, I feel like the way it worked, I would assume that Taurus is signed, but I don't think he is. I'm not 100% sure, but like he got so much in this match, and I thought this was really good. After that, we saw Roosh pick up the victory over Martin Stone. I was surprised to see Roosh. I think I had tweeted during SmackDown, where's Roosh been? And we haven't seen him since World's End. And then it was very surprising seeing Martin Stone. I really have not seen much of him since NXT. Danny Burch. And he looked so different, which was so crazy. But this was pretty much a showcase match for Roosh. Roosh continued the attack afterwards. He had a video play for him on the second Rampage, warning people that they'll put respect on his name. I feel like this, same with Phoenix. He's been out for a bit. I don't know where Roosh has been, but I feel like this should have been hyped up as well. After that, Toni Storm picked up the victory over Anna Jay. I think despite Anna Jay getting a victory in January, I think she's had pretty much a really bad 2024 so far. Even 2023 wasn't so good for her. Obviously, she's losing this match against Toni Storm, but if I'm Anna Jay, I'm not going to be happy with not winning and not being in a storyline. And they even brought up on commentary how Anna Jay had a winning streak back in 2022. Now she's just floating in the background, really not doing anything. And I thought the other month we were going to see like, oh, now we'll see the return of Anna Jay, the big push for Anna Jay. That hasn't been the case. So that's unfortunate. After that, we saw the Acclaimed pick up the victory over the Grizzled Young Veterans, which I totally marked out for when that was announced on Twitter. I thought it was one of them custom graphics that somebody puts out. But I thought they were going to win this match because the Grizzled Young Veterans are a big tag team that I think any company would be lucky to have. And I thought, given that the Acclaimed just lost the Trios Championships, that they probably wouldn't win this match. But I was wrong, and I enjoyed the hell out of this match. This was probably the best tag team match in AEW this year. Despite the referee not counting illegal partners out, I think this was great. I think Anthony Bowen shined big time. The Grizzled Young Veterans shined big time here. It was a breath of fresh air for that tag team division. We saw in the main event, Swerve Strickland picked up the victory over Claudio to retain the championship. Collision actually started in the middle of a promo from Swerve on my DVR. Because of, I think it was basketball again. But they had Swerve issue an open challenge. How they aired Rampage right after this, I'm like mind blown. Because this was like when they had Edge and Christian and then they went to Bullet Club playing in a pool. Nothing should follow a match like that. Nothing should follow a match like this. And I think this is the kind of wrestling match that I want to see on TV. I thought it was cool that Claudio and Swerve Strickland shook hands afterwards. But I think this is how Dynamite should have been. They should have opened Dynamite last week with that promo from Swerve with the open challenge, Claudio accepting the open challenge. And then you have the main event of that episode be Swerve beating Claudio. But they had to do that angle with Jack Perry, which they chose to put him over their own champion. And you have the opening match from last week, Kyle Fletcher and Swerve. Doesn't really make sense. Random, out of nowhere. Claudio's an actual contender. Claudio has a bunch of wins in AEW right now. Kyle Fletcher does not have victories in singles matches. So I thought this was very well done. Obviously, and people are saying that it's because they were going to be coming off that hot ratings gimmick from the basketball. I don't care about ratings. I think it should have been you open your main show with your main champion. After that, it goes into AEW Rampage. Trent Beretta picked up the victory over Chuck Taylor in a parking lot brawl. I don't think any match will live up to the parking lot brawl that the Best Friends had with Santana and Ortiz. And I would say this was probably on par with their parking lot brawl with the Blackpool Combat Club. To me, it was It wasn't bad, but there was no build to it. One week, you see Trent Beretta turn on Orange Cassidy. The next week, you have Chuck Taylor show up to back Trent Beretta off, and then this gets set up. I wish there was more time there, and I wish they gave us more before going right to this is our match. I'm gonna put you out of your misery or whatever. And the match goes, Trent Beretta ends up smashing Chuck Taylor's ankle with a wrench after the match and blamed Orange Cassidy for it. And honestly, for me, the worst part of this segment was knowing that Don Callis was watching this. And I thought maybe Trent was going to be maybe joining Don Callis. But I'm going to put a pin in that. And I think maybe the second worst part of this is the AEW social team making this match about CM Punk. Not directly, but if you're reading the tweet and you know what's going on with the CM Punk situation, you know it was about CM Punk. Why can't you just move on? Just move on from CM Punk. You're trying to put over Trent and Chuck Taylor here. Why are you making it about CM Punk? I just think that's goofy. After that, Thunder Rosa picked up the victory over Deonna Purrazzo. This I thought was a very good match. I think more of the Deonna Purrazzo that we're used to seeing. There were some spots in this match that I didn't like due to timing, but I'm not knocking points off for that. And I definitely didn't expect for Thunder Rosa to win this match, but she got the win by reversing Deonna Purrazzo, and Deonna Purrazzo attacked Thunder Rosa afterwards. And she spoke on the next episode of Rampage about Thunder Rosa. And we're seeing this new side, or an old side of Deonna Purrazzo that we really haven't seen in AEW yet. So I think they're going to turn her slowly. And I'm for that. I think she's a great heel. I think she's a fantastic wrestler. After that, Big Bill picked up the victory over Trevor Blackwell. To me, this does nothing for me or my thoughts on Big Bill. We've seen him in these matches already. I know AEW loves their hard resets on people, but he's Big Bill. He's huge. We don't need him to face enhancement talent. And what I don't get is that it almost seemed like Bill was mocking Chris Jericho instead of wanting to actually be taught by him, but that's not the case. We find out on either Dynamite or Rampage, I can't remember right now, that I think it was Dynamite, that Big Bill wants to join Jericho. Jericho accepted. We saw Daniel Garcia and Shibata pick up the victory over Shane Taylor Promotions. I don't know why this took place. And when I was watching this, I thought I remembered, but I still don't know. It just made no sense. I really thought it was because of Orange Cassidy. But if that's the case, why was he part of the opening of Rampage and not part of this? I didn't get that. And the referee really had no control of this. Nigel pointed out that Shibata and Garcia had been in the ring for like 30 seconds at the same time. And when he pointed that out, it might have been the case. I think they might have been in the ring at the same time for like 3 minutes together, which is absurd. And I think the real saving grace of this episode of Rampage, aside from airing right after Collision, I think the saving grace was Deonna Purrazzo and Thunder Rosa. And I'm not saying that the parking lot brawl wasn't good. It was just okay to me. And I think that Deonna Purrazzo and Thunder Rosa should have been the match that main evented that episode of Rampage. On AEW Dynamite, it kicked off with Tony Khan in the offices in Jacksonville, Florida. AEW was up in Canada, not able to travel due to the neck gimmick. And then the Young Bucks cut him off. And they said they can't be fired. It's built into their EVP contract. And they said that if Tony Khan can't be in charge, the EVPs are. And then they aired their own intro to this episode of Dynamite. It was pretty much just like NWO. Which I don't care about this storyline at all. But it's very much so NWO. But then we get Swerve coming to the ring. He puts himself over as the champion, and then puts down the EVPs. And he reiterated what he said on Collision, and he addressed Double or Nothing and who will face. But then the Young Bucks showed up on the screen, and they said that they've arranged his opponent. And then it turned out to be Christian, who got cheered. And then Christian starts to beat down Swerve. And the fans are still cheering. And nobody came out to help Swerve. You have the whole patriarchy out there beating Swerve down. And then Christian finally addressed the fact that Swerve left Nick Wayne in a pool of his own blood. They couldn't do that when Swerve was a heel. Now that he's a big baby face, they can mention that. And then we saw Luchasaurus pull Swerve's hair out. But it's just absurd that literally nobody comes to the aid of the champion. Which we'll find out later on in the show. Swerve said he's coming with backup next week. Maybe it's Keith Lee. Keith Lee's been missing for months. Would it make sense for it to be Keith Lee? I don't think so. First match of Dynamite saw Edge pick up the victory over Buddy Matthews to retain the TNT Championship. I didn't realize this match was taking place. I thought it was set in stone that it was going to be Malachi Black. But it was an open challenge gimmick that House of Black, it could have been any member of House of Black, and it was Buddy Matthews, and I enjoyed this match. I didn't think we would have seen a match like this had Edge stayed in WWE and had Buddy Murphy been Buddy Murphy in WWE still. Like, the closest I think we would have been to this match, it would have been if Edge was around when Murphy was a disciple for Seth Rollins. But I'm very glad that this match took place. At one point, Edge and Matthews ran at one another with crossbodies, and then the medical staff cut the match off to come check on them. That cuts to commercial break. Buddy Murphy, apparently, Matthews spit up blood. But they kept the match going, and there was heavy focus on the abdomen of Buddy Matthews in this match after that. Edge hit an Impaler DDT from the middle rope, which I thought was cool. But he eventually hits that spear to pick up the victory. And then he attacked Buddy Matthews afterwards. And he went to hit him with the concerto. The lights go out, and Malachi Black shows up, and he's like, do it. do the concerto basically. And Buddy Matthews is standing there on his knees. Do it. Hit me. And Edge turns his focus to Malachi Black with the chair. Lights go out. Lights come back on. They're gone. So they're playing mind games with Edge. It's got to lead to Malachi Black versus Edge. Probably double or nothing. After that, Samoa Joe picked up the victory over Isaiah Cassidy. I really wish this match was over much sooner than it was. I feel like Joe should have been furious that he lost the championship and really gone in there and torn the absolute hell out of Isaiah Cassidy. Wasn't really the case, but Samoa Joe was picking up that victory regardless. After that, we heard from Orange Cassidy. And Orange Cassidy said that because of Trent and the match that took place on Rampage, their parking lot brawl, and what he did with the wrench, Chuck Taylor will never wrestle again. And he went to call Trent out, but Trent interrupted. And Orange Cassidy went after Trent. He got held back. And Trent said that Chuck Taylor's career is over because of Orange Cassidy, not him. Chris Statlander showed up. She's trying to hold back Orange Cassidy. And then Don Callis showed up and walked off with Orange Cassidy. And like I had that pin, I thought it was going to be Trent Beretta going with Don Callis. I would much rather have Orange Cassidy join Don Callis, because at this point, I really don't care about Orange Cassidy. I really don't care about the Don Callis family. So I think if you put them both together, I would find that interesting, which is such a weird thing to say. But I think because they're like complete polar opposites, I think Don whispering in Orange Cassidy's ear, which again makes no sense because Trent Beretta is the heel here. I think Don Callis whispering in Orange Cassidy's ear and slowly turning him to the dark side, I think would work out more in the long run. It just really doesn't do much for Trent. But it should be interesting to see where they go with that, if they choose to do that. Otherwise, it's not going to be interesting to me. Rocky Romero was interviewed later on, and he said that he's not siding with anyone, which is kind of stupid. You saw what he did to Chuck Taylor. How could you not side with Chuck Taylor? But then he challenged Kyle O'Reilly randomly, and that match gets set up for Rampage, second Rampage. After that, Chris Jericho picked up the victory over Shibata to retain the FTW Championship. Ted Irvin was in the house. I thought that was pretty cool to see. I think the one thing about this match that I thought was good was Chris Jericho bringing out a bag of hockey pucks. You thought it was going to be like thumbtacks or something, and it was a bag of pucks. And I think we've never really, I don't think I've ever seen that before. And then Chris Jericho got dropped on the pucks. And then as goofy as that trash can spot was, I thought that the end portion of that was hilarious. Where Chris Jericho was banging on it with the kendo stick when the trash can was over Shibata's the whole body. Shibata backs him up into the corner, and then Jericho, even though Shibata can't see, Jericho's like trying to reason with him. And I thought that was a funny spot. But Big Bill showed up and he took Shibata down. And like I said, Jericho agreed to take Big Bill under the learning tree of Chris Jericho. After that, Claudio picked up the victory over Brian Cage. Couldn't have cared less about this match. I apologize. I literally just could not care about this match. Serena Deeb picked up the victory over Mariah May. I think Serena Deeb probably should have put Mariah May down much quicker than she did, given the circumstances to Serena Deeb's character. And Serena Deeb, there were times where she was doing moves. She was taking forever to do them. And I didn't like that part. And I had high hopes for this match. I just really wasn't into it. Toni Storm ended up throwing the towel in to end the match. And I feel like Serena Deeb, I'm here to bring the wrestling into All Elite Wrestling. I feel like she's like that submission specialist. she should have been that person to tap Mariah May out. Obviously, you can go next week. We see Mariah May be like, brother, I wasn't ready to tap out. I wasn't ready to give up. I wanted that title shot. And then Toni Storm, I don't want to face you. Maybe that splits them up. I don't think that'll be the case, but I think it would be dumb if they did that. But maybe Mariah May gets added to the match at Double or Nothing. I don't know. After that, Kenny Omega came out to close the show. There was like 2 minutes left, and he spoke about having diverticulitis, and he said that he had to stop watching wrestling because he just couldn't. If he couldn't be there, he didn't want to be watching it. But then he turned on AEW Dynasty, and he enjoyed it. He put it over, and he spoke about how he's already been forgotten, which I don't think is the case. And he said that his career isn't over. He very much so could have had surgery, but then he would have had a colostomy bag for the rest of his life. And he chose to not take the surgery, not get the colostomy bag, and he could get hurt at any moment. And he brought up the Elite and said that he's also an executive vice president, so he'll also have power in the company, which to me, I understand that, but it doesn't make sense because the Young Bucks outvote him 2-1. So he really, in that case, doesn't have power. But Okada showed up, and Kenny Omega is like, give me a couple of months. We'll settle this in the ring. And then Jungle Boy attacked Kenny Omega from behind. He took out security. Kenny Omega attacked Jungle Jack, even though he wasn't cleared to be there. No doctors tried to stop him. Nothing of that case. But then Jack Perry ends up smashing Kenny Omega in the abdomen with the steel chair. And the Young Bucks came out just like they did last week, where they're like, bro, it looks like they're going to be like, how dare you do that? And they pretend to care. And then they attacked Kenny Omega. That was a cut and paste ending from last week. Except FTR, still beyond wild to me that nobody ran down to save Tony Khan last week. FTR ran off the Elite after the Elite already did their damage. And then we cut to AEW Rampage. Kenny Omega gets stretchered out. Tony Khan walked out on his own, by the way, last week after almost breaking his neck. But Kenny Omega got stretchered off. And then the Elite took FTR out backstage. They continued to attack Kenny Omega. And ultimately, I feel like this needs CM Punk, unfortunately. Especially after Kenny Omega's comments about CM Punk. He seemed level-headed about the whole situation. He said he spoke to CM Punk. It sounds like him and CM Punk are fine. So it seems like this story would have been more interesting had the main person in the storyline been in the company. After that, Jay White picked up the victory over Dante Martin. I really think the Acclaim should have won the Trios Championships. And I don't get Jay White being in this match. But he went to help Dante up. He held up his arm and then he took him out. They just did that with the Elite. I don't understand why you're redoing that. Like we're going to pretend to help you and then not do it. Take you out. That doesn't make sense to me. After that, we saw Kyle O'Reilly pick up the victory over Rocky Romero. I thought it was a good technical match. The ending, I think, was kind of out of nowhere, but it worked for that match. That's really all I have to say. And then the main event saw Willow Nightingale pick up the victory over Sky Blue in a Manitoba Massacre to retain the championship. I don't know why they would do this match on the same night that they had that Jericho thing. They did that the same thing with Edge and Christian. I forget what other match followed that. But they had two of the same match types on the card. And that to me doesn't make sense. But this was somehow more brutal than that Jericho and Shibata match. We saw Sky Blue bring thumbtacks into it. Willow ends up dropping her from the middle rope with a fisherman buster onto them. Sky Blue also introduced a barbed wire board, which she put onto a table that Willow Nightingale set up on the outside of the ring. And then to end this match, Willow Nightingale hits a huge doctor bomb off the ring apron through the table onto the barbed wire board through the table, which was a great way to finish the match. And honestly, I think that match was probably the best match that I saw on that 3-hour block of Dynamite and Rampage. So kudos to Willow Nightingale and kudos to Sky Blue. Sky Blue was going out there really early on in her career, going out there and willing to do these crazy ass spots. So I think she's dope for doing that. Willow Nightingale's a great champion. I'm happy that we got a title defense out of her. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of Willow Nightingale as champion. I thought we would have seen Mercedes Moné on this episode, but that's not the case. Their match is set right now for Double or Nothing. So, like I said last week, hopefully we get to see more of Willow Nightingale get to showcase her championship reigns and gaining victories and retaining the championship before we go to the end of May and probably see her lose it to Mercedes Moné. Overall, there was a lot of AEW this week because of Collision, because of Rampage, because of Dynamite, because of Rampage. But that's AEW. Hey, Brandon, got any shout outs?
This is Yoda, and listening to Brandon's shoutouts you are.
The first is an anti-shout-out. Can you guess who gets the anti-shout-out based on news stories from this past week? Probably not. I'm going to say you don't get it.
I'm going to say I don't get it and save us time.
Tom Brady gets an anti-shout-out. Because
I was going to guess him.
There was an event that took place the other week where people paid, I think it was like $3,600. It was, I forget exactly what it was. It might have been like some corporate event, but somehow the person who put on the event opened it up to public, I think. Somehow, and people paid $3,600 to meet Tom Brady and get stuff signed because it was cheaper than going through Fanatics by like $500 or maybe $400 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Brady apparently didn't know that was what the event was going to be. And instead of not signing the items that were like not only people paying that amount of money for, some of them were super unique items, irreplaceable items. Tom Brady signs the worst looking signature I've ever seen. And signatures that look nothing like his signature. All because this isn't what he was told. And it's like, why would you ruin merchandise like that? Instead of doing that, why not just be like, I can't sign this. I'm not signing this. Mm-hmm. And then let the promoter deal with it or something like that. I thought that was so awful of him. I've disliked him for years, and I've said this multiple times. I thought he should have been banned from the NFL after that whole Deflategate gimmick. But I feel like he was their main moneymaker, so obviously they're not getting rid of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But
you can't get rid of him. He's the... Yeah.
Were you about to say the GOAT?
No. But I mean, you can't deny how good he has been.
Yeah, no, Tom Brady obviously has a very athletic record to him.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I feel like for as many haters as there are out there, I feel like you still have to respect what he has done as a football player.
But who knows if those were legit or scripted? Who knows? Big conspiracy theory there. I don't know.
That's true. I hear that the NFL is more scripted than WWE.
It's classified as sports entertainment, so they're legally allowed to. So deal with that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
But this just added to my dislike of Tom Brady. I think that was a very scummy thing for him to do. especially because some of those items were like ticket stubs and stuff that you can't just like erase the signature of. So I thought that was goofy. Next up is going to an actual shout out, though. It's going to The Miz, because he was the main focus of WWE's Most Wanted Treasures this week. And I think, like, I would prefer to have the show be about, like, actual lost memorabilia. I still enjoyed this episode. I feel like the course of the show changed after season 1, where it seemed like they knew where everything was. And with somebody like Miz, they went to one dude's house and picked up gear, but every other piece of item that Miz donated was his. Like, he knew where everything was, even though he claimed he didn't know where anything was, specifics.
Mm-hmm.
You know where it is. So I would prefer for it to have been like actual lost memorabilia. But I'm just glad that Miz was part of this, because Miz is 100% a Hall of Famer. And it was cool to see some of his gears. He had they had gear from his U.S. Championship run, Tag Team title run with Jomo, the WWE Championship run, and Intercontinental Championship run. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I think it's so wild how many wrestlers have actually given away or sold their attire or important pieces of history.
Yeah, when I was looking, when they're doing this episode of the show, and the guy had Miz's trunks, I'm like, well, how did he get those trunks if they're that meaningful?
Yeah, right? Like, I feel like if I had a wrestling match against this person, or if I wore this attire during WrestleMania, my WrestleMania match, or I had this weapon or something against The Undertaker in this matchup, I feel like I'm not just going to give it away or sell it. Like, I feel like I feel like there's some sort of there's a value to that personally.
And lucky for me, the only used memorabilia that I have is from Mick Foley, and I don't know if he would count that as such a memorable match for him, because he wore it in a match against Jonathan Coachman where Hornswoggle was the guest referee. So it's meaningful to me because I was there for it, but it might not be a meaningful thing for Mick Foley. I don't think A&E will ever knock on my door and be like, well, we're looking for this jacket. You by any chance know where it is?
Maybe Coach will, though.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. But I thought I thought it was cool that I was able to purchase that, and the money went to charity on Mick Foley's end, so I thought that was cool. And it was from a show at the Nassau Coliseum. Even though I hate the Nassau Coliseum, I'm from Long Island. Mick Foley's from Long Island, and I was at the actual show, like I said. So, and it wasn't like super expensive, but it wasn't like, holy crap, I'm spending $10,000. Like, I would never be able to, nor would I ever spend even past, I don't know, 500. So
I feel like I always think about this when I see stuff like that, like the TV shows, and I'm like, if I had that money, I feel like maybe there's some attire, yes.
Yeah, if I had unlimited amounts of money, I would probably own a lot more gear than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. And then also I look at the stuff that, like, everybody, when they go to someone's house, it's on display and it looks all nice and everything. Mine is still just in the box that it came in. I don't have I didn't set up a frame or anything for it.
Yeah.
So, but my last shout out goes to Owen Hart Memorial Month, which I've literally done this ever since he unfortunately passed away. And I just want to celebrate Owen Hart and use that hashtag throughout this whole month of May during all the wrestling programs. And I always encourage others to use it as well, and spread positivity, spread your memories and your thoughts on Owen Hart.
Yeah, Owen Hart. I mean, there's so many memories that we have, like seeing him and everything like that, and such a sad occurrence. And
yeah,
often wonder like what would be going on with Owen Hart right now, and just so much talent. He was definitely one of my favorites after I actually started becoming a sympathizer for him during the Bret Hart era with his feud, because I was a big mark for Bret Hart. But then Owen Hart started to play that reverse role as a heel, where he's like I mean, Busted Open made the comparison, and it kind of resonated, where everything taking place with Drew McIntyre, saying how, listen, I may be viewed as a heel right now, but this is why, and I am justified to feel this way. I'm justified to act this way because of what they did to me. So Owen Hart, when he used to do that with Bret Hart, saying like, I was always in his shadow, I was not this, I was not the favorite and everything, you kind of sympathize for him, and you're like, I want Owen Hart to get this victory over Bret Hart just so he can feel good. So yeah, definitely Owen Hart month, and just keep on spreading the memories.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It's going to be 25 years.
That's wild.
Yeah. So those are my shout outs. Now it's time for That is right, our Mark Out moment of the week. I'm going to start out with Saturday. I was watching
Saturday.
I was watching Resort TV 1. That's a YouTube channel. They go to all the Disney parks, Universal, and they live stream. And I noticed they were live streaming from Epcot, and I tuned in because it specifically noted that they were going to be streaming the Starship concerts. And I figured I would listen to a set or so. And Starship came out on stage, and the very first song that they played was Jane, which I pop for now because that's Orange Cassidy's theme song. So
that's always a good song too, though.
Yeah, it's a good song, yeah. Starship's a fantastic band. I've seen them multiple times at Epcot.
I can't believe I've ever seen them. I could actually believe it. And
What was that sentence? I can't believe I've never seen them? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it wasn't proper grammar. It wasn't.
But yeah, you would see them.
Yeah.
Maybe not pay to see them, but...
Yes. Exactly.
And also, if you stick around for all the sets, I'm sure you'll eventually hear White Rabbit, which is obviously not 100% Starship, but it's not a duration. What word am I looking for?
Variation?
A variation of Starship that put out that song, and that's obviously connected to Bray Wyatt, so...
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
You have any other mark out moments?
Any other
Actually, you know what? Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah.
Speaking about Bray Wyatt, we had more QR codes this week. And I think we could potentially see whatever this is at Backlash. Maybe.
Huh.
Or get like an actual on-screen, like a big teaser or something at Backlash. I think that would be really cool.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
But go on.
But no, I got nothing.
I thought you had something.
No, let's see. My Mark Out moment.
You don't gotta force it.
Yeah, I'm definitely forcing it.
If it didn't happen,
all right. I'll say. Since you brought up everything with the treasure collecting and everything like that, something that I marked out for was I watched the one with Cody Rhodes, and just seeing all these dusty attires and stuff like that. I definitely marked for the stuff that they were showing, but also marking for like Cody Rhodes seeing all this attire again, and it was it's weird. It's really weird to hear.
The episode, I think like the very first 30 minutes of that episode aired somewhere, and I don't know where or when, to the point where I almost think it was supposed to be part of last season.
Mm-hmm.
And one other person spoke about how they remember seeing this footage before. And I'm like, bro, I have that same exact memory. And I thought when I was watching that episode, I was going crazy. I was like, I very much so remember this, like, scene for scene.
We got the Mandela effect going on.
It's not, no, there's 100% not a Mandela effect. It aired somewhere. I was even looking on Twitter, and
that's what people that
no,
have
because
the
there's
Mandela
a
effect
tweet
happen
from
to say too.
There's a tweet from last year talking about that stuff, but like one person spoke about it last year. I can't find any of the other tweets, but it 100% aired somewhere, somehow. I think they had it on their YouTube channel maybe, and then deleted the footage. So I don't know what, but yeah, like stuff like that though. I always enjoy seeing those gears.
Yeah, I agree.
But also,
yeah, take it home.
No, because last week I opened the show basically complaining about Target and the poor distribution of the AEW figures. There were 2 other Targets that I had not yet gone to, and I went on Sunday after Cheesecake Factory to the Target in Farmingdale. And it was like, holy crap, they have everything. They had a huge stack of WWE figures, huge stack of AEW figures, and one of those figures was that Anthony Bowens figure. So I'm super pumped that I have that, even after being told that they'll never sell it in the store and it was probably pulled from shelves, all because Ringside Collectibles, as a third party, sells it on Target's website, and they can't actually see that the figure exists in their stores. I finally found the Bowens figure, and I'm pumped. I don't have to look for it anymore. Now it's gonna be a hole in my head when I try to find the Alex Reynolds figure whenever that comes out.
Yeah, I'm glad that you finally got it.
Yeah. And then one more mark out moment of the week. Cassidy Pope finally announced that her album will be coming out on July 12th. I'm definitely looking forward to that. She's got 4 of the songs out as singles right now.
Okay.
The album is called Hereditary, by the way, and she performed one of the songs that'll be on this album back when I saw her in July last year, and that song, it literally been stuck in my head since then. And I'm definitely looking forward to hearing that, like a studio version of that song, and just having it and being able to replay it over and over again. So I'm definitely looking forward to the album. Definitely marked out for that news. But that is Markin Out episode 691. You could follow us on Twitter at Markin Out, at Chris Sweendog, CM Sweeney 85 on Instagram, at BTTG161, at David PTDBT. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/markinout. YouTube and Instagram are markinout11. ProWrestlingTees.com/markinout, at markinout on TikTok. Fight the goddamn fight. And of course, you can listen to our shows on YouTube. You can listen to them on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, markinout.com as well, if I didn't say that. And we wish you the best of
luck in your future
endeavors. Have a fantastic week.